Hey, creative writing. Happy Friday, April 17th, 2020. Today is one of my favorite lessons that we're going to do during these intro days. We are learning about dialogue today, which is one of my favorite things to write. Um, Today of all days, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to watch the videos that I've included in the slides on your own time. I'm realizing it doesn't work to play them during these screencastifys, but that'll make the lesson go shorter, and then you can go back and watch the examples because they are so good today. Okay? Oh, saying it right, the basics of good dialogue. Why do we need dialogue in fiction? What functions does it have? Let's talk through that. Here are some things that dialogue does. It adds to the reader's knowledge of the situation. It keeps the piece moving forward. It reveals something about the speaker's personality, and it dramatizes relationships. Think about what happens in your life daily. Most of the drama that's happening in your life is coming from different types of communication. Maybe it's from texts right now, maybe it's communication with your parents, your siblings. And don't forget that half of communication is body language and silence. So think about those things and the power that they add to story and entertainment. First things first, dialogue should sound natural. Make sure you're playing with the rhythm of sentences, you're varying your sentence length, you're being non-grammatical if that's how somebody talks. We don't all speak so that we match perfect grammar and mechanics. That's not real life. People rarely speak in full sentences. Pay attention to the speaker's audience. Okay, so who are they speaking to? Are they going to sound different when they're talking to their girlfriend versus their best friend versus their dog versus their teacher? All right, think about speaker audience relationship. If you've taken AP Lang or have studied rhetoric, you know what I mean. Think about private versus public space. So if it's a public space and everybody can hear them, are they speaking differently than if they were just alone in their room with their friend? Does a part of their personality come out that we don't usually get to see? And of course, the character's mood. When I'm in a good mood, I'm really nice. When I'm cranky, I'm short and a little bit sarcastic. Okay, so use those things. That's what makes dialogue so much fun, is it can say way more about a character than anything else. Try not to use dialogue if it's not forwarding the plot. To deliver information, sometimes this works out pretty well. For instance, like in the Harry Potter books, because it's a series, you have to catch your readers up on things that have happened in the past. And a lot of times, J.K. Rowling uses dialogue to do that. To describe people, places, or objects, you want to do that through imagery and detail, not through dialogue. As a substitute for direct narrative and exposition, and here's a really important one, dialogue that's 10 words long if you could do it in 2. So again, this is about being natural, okay? So use dialogue strategically. Be honest with your character, all right? Are they the sort of person who says, oh, when they slam their fingers in the drawer, or shucky darn, like a Southern belle? So this is where developing your character is so important because they're going to say certain things that are unique to them, right? Like I say, even though it drives my fiance nuts, oh my Lanta, because it's fun. Or I say things like gall darn it, or other things because I can't swear in my classroom. And so I've taught myself to use other phrases. All right, so those are unique to me and my position and who I am as a human being. But maybe the way that I speak changes when I'm at home versus when I'm in front of my students. Okay. Subtext is where the meat is. The best, most interesting, most dynamic dialogue occurs between chit chat and the achievement of goals. What's not being said, but is being heard. All right. This is where dialogue can get incredibly awesome. So this is where saying things in 2 words versus 10 comes in handy. Real life, a lot of time, what we're saying isn't interesting. It's just talk. It's boring. There's a loss of focus. There's digression. We go on tangents. We repeat ourselves. It's chit chat. It's small talk. It's not interesting. When we are using dialogue in art, we want to make sure that we cut out all the boring stuff unless it's serving some sort of purpose. Um, Everything has to have a purpose. Every word that you write down in dialogue should be doing something. So this is the first video that I want you to watch. This is from the movie Below, which stars Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz, and it's about a cocaine dealer. Uh, but this dialogue that they have between the two of them, they say very, very little, mostly one-word answers, but we see so much more is happening between them. And this is a movie, sure, but you can achieve this in your writing as well. So what's being said on the surface versus the subtext, what's actually being said. The best, most interesting, most dynamic dialogue exists between chit chat and the achievement of goals. What do I mean by this? Every character has a goal, all right? Maybe they want someone to look stupid, they want to date somebody, they want to spread hate or love, they want you to do something, okay? That's what you want. And then there's chit chat. Hello, how are you? What have you been up to? Is your cheeseburger good? If you were to just have your character say, I want to date you, or just have them say, hello, how are you? Neither of those are interesting. If you achieve something in the middle, you have gold dialogue. That's what's happening in that movie example that I just showed you. All your dialogue should land between these two arenas. This is the best, one of the best scenes of all time, in my personal opinion, in a movie. This is Hans Landa and Shoshana from Inglourious Basterds, directed by Quentin Tarantino. If you have never seen this movie, I so very recommend it. I remember last try specifically, I showed this clip or first try to Creative One, and they were engrossed with this. And then so many of them went home and watched the movie. If you haven't seen it, it's unbelievable. It's very violent, so just at your own discretion. But what's important to understand about these two characters, Hans Landa is a Nazi, and he's known as the Jew hunter. So he's known for finding Jewish people during World War II who are in hiding. He's actually responsible for killing all of Shoshana's family when she was in France. But since then, she's changed her name, and he doesn't know who she is. So she's sitting at this table with him, and she's feeling fear and so many things, but she can't express it because she's trying to hide her true identity. He's approached her because she owns a movie theater and he wants to show a Nazi film at her movie theater. So he wants something from her. And she has to control everything right now to make sure that she stays safe. But what we start to try to figure out is, does he actually know who she is? What is she thinking? And there's so much happening underneath the dialogue. So please watch that. Characters should have their own recognizable voices and what choices are made for each character's dialogue. So a really good way to display this is between Jesse and Walter White in Breaking Bad. They each have a very distinct way of speaking, and that differentiates their characters, but also builds their relationship. And this is an example of that. Silence is also one of the most important things. I'll fix this video before I post it. But silence is golden. Silence is sometimes where all the emotion lies, and creating silence in a movie or a play is easy. Actors just don't talk, but doing it in a story is more challenging. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. The example that I'm going to show you is from A Quiet Place, where they're literally forced to be silent, and all the different things they do to show each other that they love each other. Different ways to indicate silence, make the characters move. So are you fidgeting? Did somebody ask you a question and you don't want to answer, so you start fidgeting? Maybe you're playing with your hair. Maybe you were doodling on paper and you're not making eye contact with them. Describe the world, what's happening around them, how are the characters physically reacting, or go inside the character's brain with flashbacks and inner thoughts and feelings. So if I'm writing a story and I'm like, Bob looked at Carol and said, Carol, I love you. And Carol is like, goes inside her head and she's like, what did he just say to me? Why, I don't know how I feel about this. My husband died a month ago. Oh, look, a bird. I don't know, better writing than that, but you understand what I mean, right? You create the silence by describing other things, and trying to elongate that as much as possible to build up tension. So If you have time today, because the videos are kind of long, so if you don't have time to do this writing activity, don't feel obligated. It's just another prompt that eventually you could potentially turn in. If you don't have time, just stick to watching the videos. I'd much rather have you do that today. But this is practicing silence. So the goal is to practice incorporating gesture and silence into dialogue. One, think of a situation involving two characters, one who is trying to convince the others of something that they don't agree with. All right. And write the scene using gesture and silence to indicate reluctance to comply or outright disagreement. So rather than just having somebody yell at the other person, use silence and gestures and props and fidgeting and whatever else you can do. Keep it silent. All right. That's our lesson today. Dialog, it's one of my favorites. It's an incredibly useful tool, so it's something you'll get to keep practicing. It is Friday, so progress reports are going to be going out. I'll be giving you scores on the prompts that you are turning in. And next week, you'll be revising a second prompt. So start thinking about the one you revise, but no homework over the weekend. That's it. Have a good weekend, everybody.